let's talk feeding tubes, because I can't think of anything else that sounds like more fun than a feeding tube.
Let's talk feeding tubes. All right, so scientifically based, research based, about 50 to 70% of head and neck cancer patients get a feeding tube at some point during treatment.
And why do they need a feeding tube?
Because they can't swallow, because they can't maintain their nutrition, they can't maintain their weight, they can't get enough protein and nutrients that they need into their body because of the destruction. That's actually worse than feeding tube, because it's so,
thank you. We're going to destroy your neck.
Yeah, because of the destruction, and it's kind of two parts. It's one part sores and burning and stuff. I mean, the inside of the throat is a place that the sun was never meant to shine, and we're going to put a whole bunch of radiation in there. So there'll be sores and burning in there. But also the muscles in the neck tend to constrict, and then you just can't get the mechanism of swallowing to work.
Yeah, and having been through that process with the surgery before, one of the things that's encouraging to me is I literally couldn't swallow before because I had new parts in there. So now I've got the same parts that I had before. So hopefully that was kind of like a dry run, no pun intended, but a dry run at what we're going to go do here. And I'll be able to swallow, or I'll know what I'll need to do in order to be able to swallow as we go through the process. That being said, if I can't swallow, then I can't get the nutrients and most importantly, hydration that I need during the process. So we're going to go ahead and put in a G-tube in my tum-tum. And why don't you explain a little bit of what that looks like?
So, well, there's two ways that they do tubes. One of them is they wait until you aren't maintaining your weight, you aren't maintaining your nutrition, so it's kind of an emergency and they can't wait any longer, and then they put one in. And then the other way to do one is prophylactically, which is in advance. And so we really, based on some of the research that I had done and things that we had looked at, especially given that the likelihood that you're going to end up with a tube at some point is pretty high, 50 to 70%. We really were interested in looking at a prophylactic tube, putting a tube in before you starts to get really hard for you to swallow. Because what that allows us to do is for you to have nutrition, to get all the protein that you need. But like you said, more importantly, hydration. So because you are doing radiation and chemotherapy at the same time, the biggest risk of the chemotherapy drug that you are taking, which is cisplatin, is nephrotoxicity, which just means that it blows out your kidneys. And the number one way to
blow it out your kidney.
The number one way to prevent that is through hydration. So you need to be really, really, really hydrated, even overhydrated. In fact, when they deliver your chemotherapy, they will overhydrate you to help protect your kidneys from the chemo. But if you can't easily take things by mouth, which you won't be able to do, it's very difficult to stay even properly hydrated, and definitely not overhydrated. And so that's a big motivator to have that tube in place, because it's going to help protect you from the long-term side effects of chemotherapy. So with nephrotoxicity, if you blow out your kidneys, that they don't repair. There isn't any way to repair that. That's why chemo is so hard on people. So this allows us to be as preventative as possible and proactive as possible about protecting your body through chemotherapy, with the known challenge of not being able to get things to be able to swallow. And even now, as you've recovered from surgery, it's difficult for you to stay hydrated.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of the things that I need to work on over the next couple of weeks, is continuing to up my hydration and up my swallowing and all those things, so that as we get into the radiation and chemo treatment, that's a natural thing. The other thing I was just going to point out is that everybody tells me it's non-obtrusive. We'll be checking back in about 3 or 4 weeks, and I'll let you know how obtrusive it is as part of the treatment.
Right. So we'll put that in. We have and that'll go in right after you start treatment. So it'll go in the first week of treatment, and then we'll be able to use that for hydration, for backup.
It's
and that,
backup is the important thing.
And that is the goal. So one of the things that the conversations that we had with our doctor is that one of the reasons they don't like to put feeding tubes in prophylactically or ahead of time is because then people start to rely on them and they don't work on swallowing. So through this whole process, you have to be able to continue to swallow, or those muscles do get out of practice and it does become difficult to be a person who eats again later. So we know that is a risk of the tube, and so we have to very proactively have food go down your throat even when it's hard. While we also use the tube to protect your kidneys through the chemotherapy.
Yeah, we've been given some different type of protein drinks, or I should say nutrition drinks, that are high calorie. So that if I can just get stuff down, then we'll be okay in terms of maintaining weight and such. So
right, and we know that the most important thing is that those are balanced really well. So those nutrition will be balanced really well, and you will be able to take as much of that, swallow as much of that as possible. But if you can't swallow it all, then we can finish it in the tube and make sure that you get all the nutrients that you need. Most importantly, protein. Protein helps your body heal. We'll do all of that through the tube plus hydration.
And keeping my weight up.
Your weight up.
Very good. All right.